Hey guys, in this video, at last, I am checking out the Zeiss 55. This is model number SEL 55 F1.8Z if you are interested. Again, 55mm F1.8 lens from Zeiss. It's a whopping $1,000. I bought it used, so I paid a little bit less than that, but let's take a look at it up close. So this is what I got when I purchased this lens. I got a lens hood, Sony branded. You can see that with the lens hood installed, it does make the lens look slightly longer and more professional if that's the look that you're going for. I'd never use the lens hood in this review, so I'm gonna discard it for now. Front lens cap, 55mm f1.8 ZA, T-star, serial number on the front, and then 49mm filter thread. You can see that this front opening is quite large. And similar to the Sony 35, if you guys have that lens, front lens element is concave, which is very cool looking. Around the back, you have a full frame cutout if you're using this lens on a full frame. Electronic connections, because this lens obviously does have autofocus as well. And then around the side, you have minimum focusing distances of half of a meter, 1.64 feet, serial number, Zeiss branding. And then on the other side, Sony branding at the very top, 1.8 55. So pretty nicely built lens. Focus ring, I forgot to mention, very buttery smooth. This is the way all focus rings should feel. This, however, is not mechanical, it is drive-by-wire. Mounted on the A6000, this is what the lens looks like. It is a lightweight package and it's not too big. It's about 2 kit lenses stacked on top of each other as far as overall length, and it weighs in at 284 grams. So it's pretty lightweight lens, not going to be too much of a burden to carry this thing around with you if you're traveling. Now this past weekend, my wife and I went down to New Orleans. Some may call it a baby moon. Anyway, I took my A6000 and this lens with me, and I shot some sample photos and videos, so let's check those out. And overall, I have to say that I am impressed with this Zeiss lens. Now, I've had kind of a love-hate relationship with Zeiss lenses in the past. I don't particularly think that the zoom variants are very good, 16 to 70, sorry. But their fixed focal length prime lenses are quite good. The 24mm that I tested earlier this year is not a bad lens. And I have to say that this lens is significantly better. This is the best Zeiss lens that I've tested. Now let's talk about image quality. Wide open at f1.8, this lens is super duper sharp. Now it gets even better stopped down to f2, but you should not be scared to use this lens wide open, and that's not something that I could say about many lenses for the Sony E-mount. As far as autofocus, it is great on this lens, nice and quick, accurate. It's not as fast as my Sony 35 when it comes to autofocus, but it's certainly better than the full frame 50mm. So if you have a Sony full frame camera and you're looking at the Zeiss 55 and the 50mm, that's like $250, that I'd say is a big difference. That 50mm is pretty terrible at autofocus. This thing is much, much better. This lens does not produce any noise when focusing, so it's great for video, and again, it's nice and smooth and accurate. Colors on this lens are fantastic. There's nothing really to complain about. All of the sample images that I showed you guys in this video were not color corrected at all whatsoever, so they're just JPEG straight out of the camera, straight out of my A6000. I also didn't notice any chromatic aberration, surprisingly, with this lens. I didn't use a lens hood. If there was any chromatic aberration, it was very small and not noticeable. I didn't see any, but again, I haven't started to go through and zoom into 100% crops of all of the images that I took with this thing. There are a couple of things that you do need to know about this lens. The first thing is that there is no built-in stabilization. This lens is intended for full-frame Sony cameras, which most of them have in-body stabilization these days, so they didn't really find that necessary. Now, if you're using it on an A6000, that may be an issue, more so for video, less so for photography. Personally, I didn't see that as much of an issue. I was able to take decently sharp portraits, just handheld, trying to be stable. And even the video that I took of the concert that we went to, it wasn't too shaky, I found. Another thing that I noticed almost immediately using this lens is the background bokeh. Now, I talk a lot on this channel about background blur, bokeh, smoothness. This lens is in a class of its own when it comes to that. The Sony 50mm, as far as background blur smoothness, I don't think comes close to this thing, but we'll see. It's hard to describe. Some of the images that I took with this thing almost looked fake, like I had a backdrop in front of my subject. That's how good it is. And also because you have a very sharp lens and then a very nice and creamy backdrop, you can kind of see where I'm going with this. Now, that is a byproduct of the 9 aperture blades built into this lens, and if there was one differentiating factor or fact about this lens, I think it is that. It is just how smooth and creamy. I'm gonna use the same words, but to a higher degree, to a higher level with this Zeiss lens that you don't see with the cheaper offerings from Sony. The last thing that I'll mention is that this lens is expensive, as you would expect with the Zeiss brand. This thing is $1,000. So it's really geared more towards professional users, folks who are doing maybe wedding photography or getting paid for portraits. But you can find them on the used market for not a whole lot of money. I picked this particular one up for about $650, and it is in almost perfect shape. So you can get a good deal on one if you look around. If you guys are curious to read more information about this lens, check out specifications. I'll post a link down to Amazon below. In an upcoming video, I will be comparing this Zeiss 55 to the Sony 50mm F1.8, simply because I'm curious as to what the difference is between a $250 and a $1,000 Sony lens. So stay tuned for that. As always, thank you guys for watching. Thanks for all of your likes, comments, and support. Stay tuned for more. Hit that subscribe button if you have not done so already. And down in the comments, let me know what you guys thought of these sample photos and this lens's performance overall. Was it great? Is it a good value in the Sony E-mount world? Just curious to read what you guys have to say. I'll see you guys next time. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.